rather than saying this is the result of political decisions made by consecutive governments. People have blamed and scapegoated minorities.
We now have a Labour government, though, don't we?
That is the role of the media, and that is the role of politicians.
Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper and Rishi Sunak over the weekend have all said.
Here's Zara Sultana on Good Morning Britain. And as you'll see, we have co-host Ed Balls acting like some spoilt child as he uses the subject of racism and Islamophobia to score points in a way that makes him look infantile.
Have they called it Islamophobic and racist?
Why is that language important?
They've called it
racist. Have they called it racist?
These are not trivial matters. We have to...
I know. No, I'm so sorry. We do have to ask you questions as well.
Absolutely.
So
and if you want to, you can answer them.
I'm going to wait for Kate to finish her question, if that's...
If you want to answer the questions, you can, but you don't have to.
We'll see a bit more of this interview in a moment.
The economy has been stalling for well over a year. Now it's actually gone into reverse.
This was the same Ed Balls who was once the Shadow Chancellor and was saying this about the architect of austerity, George Osborne.
It just confirms what businesses and families up and down the country know. People aren't investing, they're not spending, people are really under pressure. George Osborne today is trying to blame everybody else.
He's not really saying anything that harsh about Osborne here, but you would have imagined that they were bitter rivals, each with staunch beliefs that their approach would be the best for society. Labour on the side of the working individual and the Conservatives on that of big business.
He should take some responsibility. It's his decision to raise taxes and cut spending too far and too fast, which has choked off this recovery, and he needs to change course quickly.
So it's a shock last year that Balls started a podcast with Osborne and that they had become frenemies, with Balls even being invited along to Osborne's wedding. Don't forget, this was the same wedding where, dear God, no, a protester threw orange confetti over Osborne. Whatever next? Now, before we go to a reaction on Confettigate from Owen Jones, also appearing on Good Morning Britain, and yes, also hosted by Ed Balls then, I want to add that with Osborne being the architect of austerity, putting in place policies, slashing services, cutting back healthcare to the vulnerable, and it's widely accepted as being credited for over 300,000 excess deaths, I wouldn't go anywhere near this creep if I was Balls. It would be like palling up with a serial killer. Don't you have any principles, Balls? Anyway, here's Owen Jones's thoughts on the Balls Osborne podcast and confetti matter.
Owen has been very deeply angered by things George Osborne's done.
Yeah.
And I've been deeply angered by things George Osborne's done. I was deeply angered by the depth of the police cuts. I hated the way in which he stigmatised people claiming tax credits and claimed that somehow people on tax credits were sitting behind the curtains, lazing around.
Yeah, he whipped up hatred against some of the most vulnerable people in society.
But you don't need to tell me that, because I know that.
Yeah, but what I don't like about Ed is I think the case in point is you having a podcast with him now where it's all kind of buddy and, you know, we're best mates and all the rest of it, because I think it undermines how serious what he did is.
Well,
as an example, a coalition...
I hear what you say, but I think it's possible, Owen, to be civil to people and disagree.
Well, yeah, but I talk about civility. You just mentioned an issue about civility there. And that's a really good point about the way George Osborne whipped up bigotry against people who didn't have a voice.
I disagree with him on that.
No, the reason I get frustrated about it is what we get outraged about in politics and what we don't. There was an academic study by the University of Glasgow which found that because of austerity policies pursued by George Osborne, there were excess deaths. That's deaths.
You're losing the room, Owen.
Andrew Pearce, what a
Do you know what I'm doing? My job here, like your job, is
losing the room.
Listen,
It's
my job is to say what I think.
You're losing the room.
Not what I think is popular. No, I'm going to say this. No.
We're talking about Thea Rogers, who's worked for the BBC, she worked for Tony Blair, she worked for George Osborne, she's getting married.
Ed, I know you're best buddies with this guy now. I know you're best buddies with this guy and all the rest.
We did ask you in for your opinion.
I know.
Let's allow him to state it.
Okay, I'm saying...
Whether I'm best buddies or not...
Here's a shovel. Here's a shovel.
Because of his policies...
Debating points aside...
Am I allowed to say anything?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
No, you can carry on.
Debating points aside...
Excess deaths of 330,000 people. 330,000 people who suffered premature deaths because of austerity policies imposed by George Osborne.
So, back to the Zara Sultana interview as she's goaded by a pathetic and childish Balls.
So, why is it important to you to use that specific word, Islamophobic? It's been called racist, it's been called thuggery. I think that's important because we are speaking to the Home Secretary and other politicians this morning. Why does that matter to you to use the word Islamophobic?
In Stockport, a mosque was targeted, bricks were thrown out. The people who were in the mosque at that time, who were basically locked down in that mosque, said that they feared for their life.
But
they weren't able to get out. I'm just finishing the question.
I did ask specifically about the word,
if that's okay.
Yeah.
I would also say that the role of the Labour Party, historically through New Labour, the controls on immigration, mugs, and also your article in The Guardian where you said the problem with Labour is that they have accepted too many Eastern European migrants. We have to look at all of this historically over at least 2-3 decades when we look at the role.
I was totally right in that article.
So the discussion around immigration, you don't see that playing a role in what we're seeing descend across the country. You don't think there's any complicity in that at all?
I think if you fail to control and manage immigration properly, then things go wrong.
So the language that protesters...
So you have to control and manage immigration?
Rather than far-right mobs and
you believe in controlling and managing it?
The language that they're using are stop the boats. They are telling people like me to go home. If we look at the language used by politicians and the language used by these people in these streets, you will see a direct correlation.
But you've moved from attacking Andrew to attacking me, so let me have a go.
Kate asked me about language, if that's okay.
What you can't do is just spray out attacks on all of us and then not have any comeback. You didn't answer Andrew's question.
No, she didn't.
You attacked me. I wrote an article in which I said it was important to control and manage migration. You agree with that?
What I'm saying is, when we're talking about migration...
I know, I'm asking you a question. You've got to answer it.
I am answering it.
Do you agree in controlling and managing migration?
I think we need to talk about migration.
Click here for Andrew Pearce getting defensive.